great. I mean, I'm living in New York. I have my own TV show. I mean, dreams do come true, right?
Yes, dreams do come true, but not for us all. And in a bitter irony, she would know that as well as anyone. Because that's Rachel Dratch playing Jenna DeCarlo, the character her best friend and longtime collaborator, Tina Fey, specifically created for her to portray on 30 Rock. But when the show finally aired, Dratch's DeCarlo was nowhere to be seen. And the only public record that it ever happened is a few minutes of footage that comes from the very weird version of 30 Rock you never saw.
I remember that. My boyfriend was supposed to pick me up after that shoot, so I called him and I was like, OJ, where are you? And he was like, wait, you're alive? Then who did I kill?
But before we look into it, why not take a moment to subscribe to the Nerdstalgic channel? 30 Rock debuted on NBC in October of 2006. Loosely based on the experiences of star and creator Tina Fey, the single-cam show followed the day-to-day lives of various entertainment industry professionals who worked on a fictional sketch comedy series called TGS with Tracy Jordan. That show is produced in a studio at 30 Rockefeller Plaza, hence the title 30 Rock. By a strange coincidence, the series was released just a month after the similarly premised Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, a drama made by television juggernaut Aaron Sorkin, which was also on NBC. Back then, it was a real question as to which, if either, would succeed. But 30 Rock would ultimately emerge the winner. The show had a rocky start though. Years later, Fey would later blame it, at least partially, on the pilot episode, writing in her autobiography, "If you want to see a great pilot, watch the first episode of Cheers. It's charming, funny, and well constructed. If you want to see an awkward, sweaty pilot episode, watch 30 Rock." But eventually the show was embraced by audiences and critics alike. Along with Fey, who played television writer Liz Lemon, 30 Rock starred Alec Baldwin as network executive Jack Donaghy, Tracy Morgan as comic star Tracy Jordan, and Jane Krakowski as Jenna Maroney. Stereotypically glamorous, hilariously overconfident, and narcissistic to a fault, Jenna Maroney was a brilliantly executed satire of a famous television actress.
I know it's my turn to do the dishes, but I'm in character. And if you make me do the dishes, I look myself!
And while she was basically just a dumb blonde trope who did things like accidentally tell Maxim she hated the troops right in the middle of the Iraq War, she was kind of impossible not to love. And she wasn't part of the original pitch. Fey first pitched the sitcom to NBC in 2002 when she was head writer on Saturday Night Live. An SNL writer doing a comedy about working on an SNL-type show feels like such an obvious winner, it's easy to imagine that's what she pitched. But Fey's show was actually about a cable news network. It was the NBC's president, Kevin Riley, who counseled her to stick closer to what she knew. And Fey eventually changed the pitch to focus on a sketch comedy TV show. In 2005, the network finally ordered a pilot for the series. Since the setting was supposed to evoke SNL, Fey decided to write complete sketches for the fictional show within a show.
If he wears an Atlanta Falcons jersey to your sister's wedding?
That's a deal breaker, ladies.
And given that vision of 30 Rock, it was natural Fey would want certain roles to be cast with actors who had sketch comedy experience. One of those roles was Jenna DeCarlo. Fey had created the part specifically for Rachel Dratch. Longtime friends, the two had known and worked together since they both got their start at Second City in Chicago. By the time 30 Rock was revving up, Dratch was a veteran Saturday Night Live performer, famous for playing characters like Debbie Downer.
Who's Roy? Roy of Siegfried and Roy? He was attacked by his own tiger and suffered devastating injuries.
In some ways, Jenna DeCarlo was very similar to Jenna Maroney. Both characters are the stars of their respective shows. They're both the best friends and confidant of Liz Lemon, and they both develop a crush on Jack. They also perform virtually identical musical numbers and are both embarrassed by Kenneth handing them an embarrassing drugstore purchase while they're flirting with Jack.
Miss Maroney, I got the hemorrhoid cream you wanted.
But it's immediately evident that Dratch's Jenna is different from the one Krakowski would play in a number of important ways. Maroney, played by a more conventionally attractive actress, is costumed and made up to be a glamorous, feminine blonde bombshell. The brunette, DeCarlo, on the other hand, is conspicuously frumpy, much closer in appearance and style to Liz. Maroney is arrogant and ambitious. The kind of person who casually mentions having 2 cats she allegedly loved,
But then I moved to this place with hardwood floors, so we had to put them down.
and then later flings a cat across the stage on live television. From what we can see of DeCarlo though, she's overly humble and relatively down to earth. She even expresses incredulity that she lives in New York, has her own TV show, and can afford to put a deposit down on an apartment. The two also just had completely different vibes, Maroney bringing an exaggerated energy in contrast to DeCarlo's mousy understatedness. And while DeCarlo certainly had wacky high-energy moments, like at the end of the episode when she ran into traffic shouting, "I am a Jedi!" in imitation of an incident involving Tracy Jordan, she was ultimately much closer in temperament and personality to Liz. The bottom line is that while there was nothing inherently wrong with DeCarlo as a character, as a supporting character, she wasn't functioning as well as she could. The decision was made to replace her, and according to Dratch, one day she received a call that she was being replaced. What was understandably a tough break for her was ultimately a good thing for 30 Rock. Jenna Maroney just made the show work better. Seeing Maroney share scenes with Liz only highlighted and reinforced their respective personalities as the flaky, egotistical actress and nerdy, neurotic writer. Liz got to make wisecracks while Jenna would say dumb things and take pies in the face, metaphorically speaking. And that's actually a big deal. Maroney's pomposity made her a better target for jokes than the self-conscious DeCarlo, something plainly evident from the two alternate versions of the aforementioned gag where Kenneth embarrasses their respective Jennas in front of Jack. Seeing him humiliate Maroney works because it's obvious she had an impervious ego and can stand to be taken down a peg or two. Seeing him embarrass DeCarlo just makes him seem mean. The same goes for seeing Maroney lose top billing of her show to the erratic Tracy Jordan. Seeing Maroney repeatedly fall on her face would become a major source of humor on the show.
See you later, suckers. Meet me. Pew!
When Dratch was dismissed, the reason given was that the show had decided to change creative direction and not lean so heavily into sketch comedy. In Dratch's own words, they decided they weren't going to focus on the sketches, so they needed more of a sitcom actress as opposed to a character actress. Dratch, however, seemed skeptical, describing the explanation as the party line that she can tell her parents. Whatever the truth, she wasn't completely fired. Her strengths were repurposed, and instead of a single leading character, she would ultimately make appearances on the show as nearly a dozen completely different characters, including a Russian escort named Vlem, real-life celebrities Barbara Walters and Elizabeth Taylor, and a cat wrangler named Greta Johansson, who she played in the series premiere. Dratch says she was psyched about playing multiple characters, but was bummed out when the media portrayed it as a demotion. Admitting she wasn't proud to leave SNL and immediately faceplant, Dratch wasn't too worried and assumed more offers would roll in. But they didn't. At least, there were no more starring roles in primetime television series coming her way. As for her version of the 30 Rock pilot, it remains officially unreleased, and from what bits are available, most reviewers and fans seem to think the recasting was for the best. Ironically, losing a starring role on a comedy that wasn't working to a more charismatic star is the exact same thing that happened to Jenna DeCarlo. The almost spooky resemblance between the experiences of the actress and her character is a big tip-off as to just how realistic a look at the television comedy business 30 Rock was.
Suck it, monkeys! I'm going corporate!
So, what do you think? Were you a fan of 30 Rock? And do you think replacing Rachel Dratch with Jane Krakowski was the right move? And if you enjoyed this video, you'll definitely find others you like if you check out the rest of the channel. As always, thank you for subscribing to Nerdstalgic.